when she entered the house, like she might have like tripped the cord or something and like turned off the computer, so it might have like logged that. He also took a nap on the couch, so he was unbothered by what he did. And also, like, he disconnected the landline, so if he hadn't disconnected the landline, then it would have been a lot longer for them to be discovered, because it was like New Year's Eve day. So, like, probably nothing was planned for that day or going on that day. But since like Haruko couldn't get a hold of them, then she went to check, so that's why they were found like earlier. Um, and also he left almost all of his personal items, so there's so much evidence. So like the broken knife, sashimi knife was left, and there was a bloody glove with like a slash in the palm that was left. So they had his blood. And on the couch was a scarf, a fanny pack, a baseball style t-shirt, or like the quarter sleeve shirt, a jacket, a hat, and two handkerchiefs. So he left pretty much his whole outfit.
Do you think that that could have been left, like, intentionally?
Yeah, I do kind of wonder that. Like, how are you gonna leave your whole outfit? Like to plant fake evidence or something? Or...
It's possible.
Yeah, it is possible. Or it's like the dumbest person in the world to leave his whole outfit. I mean, he put on like Mikio's clothing, so he left in his clothing, I guess. So like that's I don't know. Either it's such an incompetent person or yeah, that maybe it was planted. It's
Could
kind
it
of
be that they
crazy.
were so competent that they made themselves look incompetent?
Right. It would just I mean, it could be. There are
There
some
are a lot of
theories.
possibilities.
Yeah, there's really like endless possibilities with this and it's kind of why it's still like unsolved, I guess. Because also there's no like there's some theories of why, but they don't really make that much sense either. So it's like I don't know. But one of the handkerchiefs was used to wrap the sashimi knife like in a very specific way. So I guess they like later the police like discovered that that was a common way that Chinese fish factory workers like wrap their knives so it doesn't slip while they're working. So like some people still think it's not a Japanese person because of that detail. And I guess it's also common for like people in the Philippines to wrap their knives like that for either ceremonial things or like soldiers also use that technique. So it's kind of weird that the knife was wrapped like that. And the other handkerchief they think was used as a mask, and it had a cologne called Drakkar Noir on it. So that's another piece of evidence, this cologne. And there were also like tons of shoe prints everywhere, like in blood, but also like outside the window, which is why they think maybe he went in that way. And based on the shoe footprints, they were able to figure out it was a Slazenger shoe, I guess, which is like a sports shoe. I don't know, like a tennis shoe kind of thing. And it was size 27.5 centimeters. So they have a lot of evidence.
To me, this all feels really intentional.
Yeah, I don't know. Either it was so intentional or they're like, they don't even realize what they're doing, maybe. Like they're so out of their mind. One or the
It's hard
other.
to know, right?
Yeah,
Either is possible.
right. Like, how do you leave this much, though? I don't understand. Unless it was on purpose. I mean, one theory is that if they were napping, maybe they were there until like Haruko checked on the house and then they like got scared and like ran. So they couldn't grab their stuff, I guess. I don't know.
That could have happened.
Yeah. But then flee where? Like from there was no blood where the window was. Like how did they get out of the house then?
Did Haruko leave the house?
Well, I think she went in and she saw Mikio on the first floor and then yeah, she probably left and called the cops, but I don't think she was still in front of the
Is it
house.
possible that the person didn't leave until after she
Maybe.
left? I mean, there are a lot of possibilities here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think she totally left the property. Like, I think she would have
Oh,
seen someone leave from the front door. There might have been a back door. I'm not really sure if there was a back
okay.
door. So maybe. But also, I think the couch was also on the first floor, like where they say he napped. So, like, I think she would should have seen, unless she was just so shocked, so she didn't notice, like, anything else, maybe. I mean, that's possible too. I don't know. Yeah, so many possibilities. But I mean, there were fingerprints everywhere. There was like his blood everywhere. So the police like definitely thought this could be solved like very quickly. But we're 24 years later, so still unsolved. But they analyzed the stool sample, which showed the killer had eaten string beans and pickled cucumber within the 24 hours before the killing. Which like some news sources like said this seemed like a home cooked meal. Like they said like mommy's meal or something. So it implied like maybe this person was like younger or like still living with their mom. Because like if they're unmarried, they usually stay with their parents still too. So it could have been someone younger or like at least in like college. So that's kind of scary. But there's like a picture of his outfit if you want to look at it. But they did analyze like where all this clothing came from. So like the shoes, that specific shoe in that specific size had never been sold in Japan, but it had been sold in South Korea. So they kind of thought maybe again it's not someone Japanese. Um the rest of the clothing had come from Japan though. So the hat was sold between September 1999 and November 2000. The black jacket was Uniqlo brand from like the current season, so that had just started being offered like September 2000, so that was really recent. The baseball shirt, I guess that was super rare. Like only 10 had been sold in the Tokyo area and 130 total sold in Japan. So from a store called MX. So the police, they really wanted to track down like all 130 of these people, but they could only track down like 12. So they ruled those people out. The knife was a sashimi knife, so there were 1,500 of those made, and they were on sale in June 2000. And like they were pretty cheap at $25. So the police also tried to find like every single person who ever bought that knife. And there was one supermarket in the area where someone had bought just that single knife, like no other purchases. So that's weird. And the police were able to get an image on CCTV of like that person that had bought that one knife, but I guess like in 2021 somehow they ruled out that person as a suspect. So they still don't have anyone. But the fanny pack is maybe like the weirdest piece of evidence. But so that fanny pack had been like 3,000 of those sold in Japan, and they had stopped selling it in January of 1999. And like it was well used and had presumably held the knife. So they found hair from the killer and they found like a fluorescent red residue like you would find from a highlighter like in the fanny pack. So then
The
they kind
killer
of
left hair?
yeah, I mean, they found hair in the fanny pack that they assume is his. I think they you probably can run it with the blood to check the DNA or something.
Oh.
I don't know. But there was also sand in this fanny pack, and they are able to trace sand where it comes from in the world. So they traced the sand there. Well, there was some sand from the Mojave Desert from California, and there was also some sand from the Mura Peninsula in Japan. So like the fact that there was sand from California, like really put that this is not a Japanese person. I mean, they could have gone on holiday, but it seems weird.
Wow.
Yeah, they also analyzed the DNA left and found I guess this was like leaked to the public, like the police aren't allowed to like talk about it, but they found that on the mother's side was like Mediterranean ancestry and on the father's was East Asian. And I guess the marker for the East Asian could be found in like 1 in 13 Japanese, 1 in 10 Chinese, and 1 in 4 Koreans. So like once this was leaked to the public, I mean everyone pretty much thought it was someone from Korea, even though it could just as easily be someone Japanese, but I think that they're kind of biased with stuff like that. And also like later it was said like because it was on the mom's side, like that could be from like the mom's mom, like for however many generations ago. So like yeah, it could be someone like half like Asian, like if their mom was like full Mediterranean, but it could also be like the great 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 grandma was Mediterranean. So it could be like still someone that like was raised in Japan or one of the Asian countries, but yeah, based on all this stuff, they had like a pretty good description at first, or like they were thinking they did. So they said it was like a 5'6", like 5'6" male of slight build. They said 15 years old to 25 years old was kind of what they were looking for. Most likely right-handed, type A blood, probably not Japanese, which was based on the sand, the DNA, and the shoes that were sold only in South Korea. But they definitely investigated like all these people that were in the area too. So, um, but the main investigator who was assigned to the case, which is Takeshi Tsuchida, he was the chief of Seijo Police Station. He said that the killings were just so brutal and it looked like it was for fun that like he had a really hard time believing it was someone like who grew up in Japan, like just based on the culture and stuff. But I don't know. To me, this seems like biased. Like people in Japan could be brutal as well, or like have mental issues, or like it could be a Japanese person. I don't know. The fact that they think it was like maybe 15-year-old or something like that's scary.
15
Yeah.
is quite young, but anyone of any age can do anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Um, so like since Haruko lived like in the other house, like right next door, I guess Haruko was there and Anne, which is Yasuko's sister, and Anne's husband and teenage son were in the other house, like at the night that it happened. So it was weird they didn't hear like anything or any screams. 'Cause you'd think they'd hear screaming or yelling for help or get away from me or something. So like that's
You
weird.
would think.
Yeah. They said they did hear noises between 11:20 and 11:30 p.m. So that's kind of why they think this is the time that it happened. But Haruko said she heard just like 3 loud thuds. And then the son also said he heard around 11:30 p.m. a thud and a clang coming from like the park area. So when the police investigated, they found like that the fold-up ladder to the attic like makes a thing and like a thud and a clang like in the same way. So they think
Oh,
that's when the killer like went up to the attic. But like they didn't hear any types of struggle or screams or anything. So that's like really strange. Because if you can hear like a clang and a thud,
right. How could all of this have been silent, but the ladder, people could hear the ladder,
right.
but they couldn't hear the rest of it?
Right. Yeah, even I mean, being stabbed makes sounds too, like even that part, even if they weren't screaming or something, like how can you not hear that? I don't know. It does seem a little weird. And especially like Mikio, they definitely think he fought back too. So how do you not hear that struggle? I don't know. They didn't hear anything. There were some eyewitness accounts. So there was like one person said they saw a person with that type of hat and jacket like at a train station and around town like the night before and the day after, but I don't think they could really like figure out who that was or anything based on the eyewitness. Um, Around 11:30 p.m. that night, someone saw someone like hurriedly rushing in the direction of the house, which also like That's probably not the person because if it was at 11:30, but that's also when the son heard the thud and clang, like the person was already in the house.